Hello and welcome to BrandWagon Talks. Today we have Mr. Sanjeev Bijli, Executive Director, PVR Inox Ltd. Hi, Mr. Bijli, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. Good to see the steps towards sustainability. And I was going through some of the calls and I realized there's a lot of work which is being done to bring the cost down. So, how do you think in the long run this kind of an effort will play a role?
I think sustainability is helping us achieve two things. One is, of course, sustainability itself and reducing carbon footprint, reducing plastic waste, and many other things. But at the same time, it's also helping us reduce costs because we're focusing on conservation of electricity and water. So the initiatives that we've taken towards putting light sensors, using LED lights at the cinemas reduces electricity cost, and putting sensors and water taps that also has reduced a consumption of water by 75%. So that in itself basically has not only helped us in achieving what our roadmap for sustainability is concerned, but also in terms of reducing the cost, overall cost
Yeah.
for the organization. Yeah.
Okay. Another interesting part was that the company plans to launch about 200 odd schemes. Of
Yeah.
that, I had read that 40% would be in South India, which is very interesting given that already there's a lot of take for South Indian dubbed movies in North India. So, which area of South India that you think you'll be focusing on beyond metros that we want to see?
The last 20, 25 years, and that goes true for both PIVA and Inox, we were both focusing a lot on the metros, as you said, because the metros is where any sort of company first goes to launch their products. And also these three states of Tamil Nadu, Telangana, Karnataka, and all of these places, and all of these cities have so much potential for multiplexes only because the movie going index is very high there. The consumption of films in South India is much higher. So our focus was always on Chennai and Bangalore and Trivandrum and Hyderabad. And then now we realize that there are so many other places across this region which don't have a multiplex. And there is places which you may not even have heard of, like Armoor
Yeah.
or Machilipatnam or Narsipatnam. All of these places basically are tier 2, tier 3 smaller cities which are the cusp of that retail revolution. And with the retail revolution comes housing our multiplexes in these centers. And we're getting some fabulous opportunities and fabulous developments across these places and towns and cities where we can expand the multiplex experience.
So, will it be a combination of acquisition of single screen or building?
No, we're not looking at acquisition of single screens at all. I mean, we are looking at good developments, good mall developments, good retail developments, and we've realized that actually makes more sense over the years. That if we're a part of an integrated retail development, where there are other tenants also, anchors, food options, parking, that in itself becomes a destination for the
And the
consumers.
propensity to spend also increases?
The propensity to spend, it kind of brings in a certain clientele, a
Yeah.
certain demographic, and they all like to actually come to that one final destination to consume all forms of entertainment.
Understood. The other question was what we were talking about was how the Indian audience is now, ready to have all kind of content. For example, it all started with Bahubali being dubbed in Hindi and coming to North. Then you have the RRR and the KGF, and now PS1 and PS2. So when you see at the theatrical release level, how has the movie mix evolved or changed in the last, I'll say, post-COVID?
I think that Indian films have now become truly Indian. And it's been a very positive change, whereas earlier these films, regional films, only used to play in those regions. But now with dubbing and opportunities and the fact that these films are being dubbed in multiple languages, now they've actually become truly Indian. And as a result of which these movies can be played in North India, in West India, in East India. The sentiments of the films could be very similar to all Indians, but it's just that if language was a barrier earlier, it's not anymore. And we've also kind of accepted and embraced them because language is not a barrier anymore, but we're obviously enjoying the narrative, the special effects, the direction and the cinematography of these films. and embracing them as truly Indian films. So it's a great positive development.
The other thing was the kind of content that works in theater now. So nobody knows exactly what works, because there was a time when, you know, a big star-studded movie would work, and suddenly after Pathan working for after so many years, I think there is people are thinking that action-based genre would work. But today the Ranbir Kapoor star movie has also done well at the box office. So, what kind of content you think people are ready, or you think movie producers are now left in a dilemma? What should I make or not make for the box office money to come in?
I think good content works. That's about it. It's just good content. It doesn't really matter what genre it is or who's starring in it. The story, the direction, the narrative, that's something which has to resonate with the consumers. I think consumers have become time poor, and they want to invest those 3 hours watching a film in a theater, which is truly a good film. And if you've seen the films that have worked in the last 12 months, be it Brahmastra or Gangubai or RRR or KGF 2 or Drishyam 2, and now Pathan, they've all been solid films, and they have been made on a scale which is appreciated on the big screen, and they have a storyline which resonates with the consumer. So as long as the content and execution is good, people will come and watch those films at the cinema.
And how do you think we are placed this year, the ongoing, the current fiscal, the new fiscal which is supposed to come?
Yeah.
Because I was reading on an international projection, it said globally it is supposed to be about 20 billion odd dollars, which box office will see. That is because US has much more screen and China has many more screens. How do you look at the Indian scenario in such a
I see
situation?
a very strong pipeline, both from Hindi, regional, and English films. Hindi, we have two more Shah Rukh Khan films coming, one Ranveer Singh, two more Salman Khan films coming, and one more Ranveer Singh film coming. And Hollywood also has consciously taken a decision now to rejig their streaming strategy,
Yeah.
and Disney is now releasing films to theaters. Little Mermaid is coming out. Warner is looking at a much more robust theatrical release schedule. So things are changing. Things are changing now for the better for the theaters, and with such a robust, exciting lineup of films, I think the audiences are coming back to the cinemas.
At the merged entity level, there's also going to be a lot of focus on the F&B part of the business, which is a key driver, right? So over the years, I've seen PVR continuously evolving as per the palette of Indian consumer. From here, how do you see that part evolving?
Yeah, it's a very substantial part of the business for us, and it's also a very integral part of the business for us. I mean, movie watching without consumption of F&B is very bland. And I think it's exciting that post merger we're able to see a lot of synergies there. We're applying best industry practices. We're looking at facility planning, kitchens, menus, which prior to the merger, of course, are very different.
Yeah.
Philosophies are very different. Spend per heads are very different. But we are finding there are so many opportunities in that revenue head in that business that when combined, we will be able to provide a much better return and a much better experience for the consumer, and actually a much better experience for all the shareholders and stakeholders.
Understood. One last question would be, you spoke about how Hollywood is rejigging its theatrical release strategy. You think India would imbibe a bit of it? We have always had talk about, or in the past, I've seen, people talking about expanding the OTT release versus theatrical release. But there's been one set of a viewer who said that because India has so many less screen compared to the West, so maybe the duration is fine. So how do you compare both the markets?
No, in fact, India has a very long window. We have a window of 8 weeks between theatrical and OTT, which is longer than the US. So we don't have any issues with the windows at all. And as far as releases in theaters is concerned, I feel more and more producers are seeing value
Yeah.
of releasing the films on theaters first, because that's where 65% of your revenues come. And it's not just the revenues that come from your big screen, but the validation of the movie being played on the big screen, the way it's mounted on the big screen, and the aspiration that the film followers have after big hits like Pathan.
Yeah.
Everybody wants to chase that 500 crore number, and everyone wants to beat that number. So I think that's a great development where now the benchmark, a higher benchmark, has been set. I think most of the actors and producers, they marvel at that box office number, which is truly the barometer of a
Yeah.
success of a film.
Right. Which is the next movie you want to watch in a theater?
John Wick.
That's an interesting one.
Yeah.
But thank you so much, and it was a pleasure talking to you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.